All right, guys, we are back. This is K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki. Our special guest today is Dominic Delgado. Dominic, it's the Nightmare Story segment.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
You know, it's funny. They say the reason why news does so well on, on television is because they only show the negative, right? Like the coronaviruses or whatever's going to kill it in the world is what gets the most traction. And I think that it's no different here. I've had a lot of people comment, I love the Nightmare Story. You know, they tell me they love the Nightmare Story. They love hearing about other people's nightmares. I like to hear more of the lesson that was learned through the nightmare because, again, if I can avoid making that mistake myself, it's a lot better.
Well, and I would say nightmare stories, if you don't have a nightmare story in real estate, you may have not done enough.
Right.
As far as growth, because usually the nightmare story or the challenges that we face in it, it's what makes us who we are. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to share my nightmare story.
Please.
Probably have a few, but the one that comes to mind the most is when I was doing more creative financing, I had just learned a newer version of creative financing, like the next level.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of lease options, and then I was like, oh, what's this subject to?
Uh-huh.
And so, without getting into too much detail and technical, I found a property that was in pre-foreclosure.
Okay.
So the person who called me on an ad that I was running, and they were what called pre-foreclosure, meaning they were behind on payments, but not enough to where it got sent out there to everybody. The notice of defaults is what we call it.
Yeah.
And so they contacted me, found out that they were about, I'd say probably close to $10,000 in the rears and payments, and they needed money to move out, and the spouse lost their job, and the property had some deferred maintenance, so it had layers upon layers of things that needed to, again, back to the creative financing, there's going to be some challenges.
Yeah.
And the more challenges that they are, the more motivated they are. If you think about it, the more problems that person has, or put yourself in their position, they're stressed every freaking day. It's hanging over them. So anyways, I get over there, meet with them, look at the numbers and say, okay, I think we can make this work. And this is in that 2008, 2009 time when things were dropping dramatically. 2000 had hit, and so things were going down. So I'm buying properties as the market's going down, assuming that it's going to go back up. Right. Well, I needed it to go back up around the time I was buying these, but it took a while still. The down cycle and trickle kept going.
Yes.
So I bought the property, gave them the money, they moved out. A couple different things with this deal was, number one, I didn't have the funds myself.
Sure.
So this is where I started getting more into partnerships.
Yep.
And hard money.
Yeah.
Hard money. So I learned a few different lessons. You guys are going to get these lessons here shortly. I brought in a partner to help fund, or we call it second mortgage. So, so first of all, I bought the property, had the seller leave their current first mortgage in place.
Nice.
I had already talked with somebody about the deal, said, hey, look, I need about $20,000, $40,000, whatever it is, to help bring the payments current on this. I need some money to be able to fix the property up and enough to have like a little escrow account of some sort, just in case, a maintenance account. Things break down in it.
Yeah.
Number one, I brought in a partner and I gave them a really killer deal. And one of the things I learned in my first lesson is the person that loaned me the money, they were a lender, a professional lender. And a professional lender, a smart lender, which I've learned since, they do compound interest. If they compound on you versus simple interest, they're going to make a ton of money the longer that they loan you the money.
Right.
So those of you that are looking to do lending, that have capital, that's a good way of maximizing your returns. And the reason why I say that is, I think they loaned me $20,000, and I think I had I think it was like 12% at the time. And anyways, so they gave me like a 3-year loan at 12%.
Oh wow.
But every year, the 12% that they earned for the year went on top of the $20K.
Oh. Wow.
And so the next year it was $20,000 plus whatever the 12% was.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
2,400, whatever.
Yeah.
But over time, it started accumulating. Well, that was number one. Number two was I thought I'd be in and out in 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I held on that property for 6 years.
Oh, wow, double.
So I had to re-up or renew my loan with them. Well, guess what? By then there was a lot of equity coming out, going to my lender. So that was number one. Number two, I was dealing with, let's say, 1,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet homes.
Yeah.
This home was almost 4,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, when you're getting traction and you're working your way up, you start taking on those bigger deals because you're getting the confidence built up. And not to say that that's wrong, but what I didn't realize, I didn't anticipate as much work that would need to go into a 4,000 square foot home. And I also learned that it's a lot harder to rent a 4,000 square foot home than it is to rent a 2,000 square foot home because of how big the house is.
Right.
It only attracts certain type of people or a larger family.
Right.
So that was a hard, being able to market the property. I sat on it vacant for a while. Oh. So it was eating me paying that payment. I wasn't getting anybody in there, right?
Right.
And when I did have people in there, when they ended up, because I rented it, I think 2 or 3 different times. So I had a couple vacancy factors in between.
Yeah.
So there's that, right?
Yes.
Then, because it was an older property, I went into it with, it had deferred maintenance.
Yes.
But I did some carpet, paint, and some minor things to it. But what I didn't take into consideration was it had brick.
Yep.
And so 4,000 square foot home with brick, part of it was falling apart. And so, you know, brick, any type of foundation brick is like, it's expensive, right?
Yes.
So between that, there ended up being a pipe break and the basement flooded. One of the plumbing upstairs, something happened. It was like that. You remember that show, that movie, The Money Pit, or whatever it was,
Yes.
the whatever movie that's out there where you know the freaking property cost them more than what it was worth.
Right.
So I was dealing with those challenges, and then on top of all that, I mentioned about the market. The market was going down. So anytime I had a little bit of okay, cool, the tenants are almost up, I need to sell it.
Yeah.
I would put it on the market and it would sit there. And it was killing me. And so why it was such a nightmare is because I remember I would wake up in the morning sometimes and I'd be like, I'd wake up fresh and be like, okay, good, you know, it's a good day.
Yeah.
And then boom, it would come up in my mind like, oh wait, I still got to deal with that property. I still got to sell it. I'm still in a negative.
Yeah.
And my partners at some point was like, hey, we want to be able to get our money. And they were nice about it. They knew the challenges. They knew our market.
Yeah.
So there's multiple challenges that were going on.
Yeah.
And it stressed me out.
Oh my gosh.
I probably got more gray hair in those years of owning that property than anything else.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, but the point I'm trying to make is there was multiple layers of challenges. I didn't think about it now. I didn't work with the mentor in that time period.
Interesting.
So because I didn't really bounce ideas off with other people.
Yeah.
That's one. So that's a learning lesson of itself, of being able to have someone there in your corner that's like, hey, here's how I would do it, or let's do it differently.
Right. Right.
So dealing with that, and then overall, when I did sell it, I did make a little bit of a profit. You would think, well, gosh, I think I had it for like almost 6 years.
Yeah.
So the market did come back up. But that's the other thing too, is when you're having a down market, you got to give yourself time.
Yes.
I should have gave myself a little bit more time, and I should have been, so my takeaways, more time.
Yeah.
Better negotiating on my lending. Like now, if I get a loan, I'm not going to let somebody compound on me. I'll give them simple interest.
Yeah.
Or maybe give them a partnership, or maybe a percentage of the upside later versus making it to where it hurts me.
Right.
As far as the financing.
Yeah.
And then also take into consideration, I'm a lot better with my numbers now.
Yeah.
With looking at properties.
Yep.
And it comes with time.
Yeah.
But my numbers are different now than they were back then. That property would have costed me easily 25 to 30 just to get in there to get it tightened up as a rental. I maybe put 5,000 at the beginning.
Got it.
So I had like 15 to 20,000 in deferred maintenance just hanging there waiting for me to take care of.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yes.
So anyways, I sold that property to a flipper who came in, renovated it.
Oh, nice.
It got it off my hands. But it was my alligator, and it was terrible. It was tough.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the takeaways. I was going to actually ask you what would you do different, but your takeaways kind of answered that question. Better negotiate the lending, and be better with the numbers, and then give yourself more time on the holding of the the creative financing
yes,
deal.
Yes, a little bit better time frame on that too.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. Dominic, thank you for sharing that. You know, it's interesting. Speaking of Real, we mentioned earlier, today's their kickoff. As you were telling that story, I think I've told you this story the first time I heard of you. It wasn't the first time I met you, but the first time I heard of you.
Was it all good or was it all bad?
No, it was all good. It was all good. So the reason I bring that up is for those of you who follow Real Salt Lake and have followed them for quite some time, you may remember a player by the name of Nat Borchers. And Nat Borchers was traded from Real Salt Lake to the Portland Timbers maybe 4 years ago, right? About 4 or 5 years ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah. And when he got traded, he had asked my wife and I to help him sell his primary residence here in Salt Lake because he was now moving to Portland, Oregon. So my wife and I had gone to Nat's house to get it ready to list, and we actually were putting the for sale sign up and doing all those things to get it all ready. Yep. And there was a door hanger on Nat Borchers' house. And I was like, oh, someone's marketing to Nat Borchers. And I go and I pull it, and I was like, Dominic Delgado. Huh. Who that is? And I literally...
I didn't even know this.
You didn't know this?
No,
I
told you this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Door hangers work.
Door hangers work. Door hangers work.
Well, you didn't call me, so obviously it didn't work.
I was like, this guy wants it for discount, and I'm not calling him today. So I took a picture of it, and then I saved your number in my phone, because I like to save We Buy Houses guys' phone numbers, right?
Good idea.
And then shortly after, I ended up meeting you, and then it didn't register at that moment, but then slowly it registered. I was like, Dominic is the guy that I know who left the door hanger on Nat Borchers' house.
I'm the only Dominic Delgado in real estate that I know of right now.
Yes.
Yeah, that was probably my door hanger.
Exactly.
I was very proactive about chasing deals and stuff like that. So
yes.
Cool. I didn't know that you were his listing agent.
Yeah. So. My wife, technically, it was her, we did under her license. It was my wife's listing.
Okay, so she listed it then.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I helped get the house ready and prepped and any minor renovations and all that stuff.
So we got the opportunity to meet Nat. He came up to Matt's office one time. And everyone, if you know who he is, he's got this big red beard, really cool guy. And he was there at the office, and I shared with him that my son loves soccer, my son Lino. And anyways, he did a quick video for Lino. Lino wasn't there, it was just us and the guys and stuff. And he gave some inspirational things for Lino about soccer and that, and just a really, really stand-up guy, really cool, classy guy for sure.
Absolutely, I really like Nat. Very cool, very cool. Okay, so we're going to another commercial break, but when we come back, Dominic's going to break us down through the step-by-step of a basic seller finance transaction. We talked about how creative you can be by even leveraging an automobile as your down payment, but we're going to go through the basics. Because if you talked about creative finance, you can talk forever.
Yeah, we could talk for a couple hours at least. But yes. I'll try to do my best to condense it down in a few minutes.
Exactly. So don't go away. If you've ever thought about how to do these types of deals, how to structure them without going to the bank and getting a loan, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. Hi, I'm Yoshi Shiraki, the author of the book, My Body's Just For Me, the book written for children to educate children on the prevention of child abuse. With the assistance of multiple best-selling author Richard Paul Evans, we are able to publish this book as a tool to learn and break the ice to make it easy for children to understand and speak up and communicate. I've been invited numerous times onto Good Things Utah to discuss the importance of good communication with your children and in regards to abuse, and also to discuss how the book, My Body's Just For Me, is a great tool for every parent when having that tricky conversation with their children. For more information on the book, My Body's Just For Me, please visit www.protectourangels.com today. And remember, the more we focus on prevention, the less we'll have to focus on rehabilitation.